All right, we have a good amount now, so we'll get started. Welcome everybody. My name is Caitlin. I'm with Urban Green Council, and today we are talking about, my slides will move here, which credential is right for me. So we'll get into that in a minute with our speakers today, but very quickly, I just want to take a minute before today's discussion begins to review Urban Green's values and set the tone for today's discussion. Urban Green uses these organizational values to guide our work, and as a part of our commitment to fostering inclusive and respectful dialogue, we ask that all meeting participants are mindful of these values during our discussion. So up first today, stop sharing my screen, there we go. Up first today, we have Josh and Kevin who are going to talk a little bit about LEAD. Then Maggie Hartley will talk about Well AP. Then Lisa White will talk about Passive House. And then Melissa Hom from Urban Green is going to talk about GPRO. So first, I'll turn it over to Josh and Kevin to get us started.
Sure, thanks, Caitlin. So I'm Kevin. I work with Josh. I've worked with him for 45 years now. And I would say early on, so it's almost been a 2-decade career of mine being involved with USGBC and the LEAD credential. So I'm going to go on the basis that everyone is familiar with LEAD and not go into the specifics, but I can tell you what the credential did for our company is that it helped launch. We're a custom home builder, and we've been building for 38 plus years now in the custom home market, mostly in the Finger Lakes region across New York State. And what it did for our company is we created the USGBC chapter and went on from there to become LEAD faculty and a LEAD fellow. But in that process, over that timeline, I would say that it launched our consulting career, where we actually transformed from being more consultants than builders these days, although we still currently build many projects. And it really propelled our business. And I would say that the LEAD credential, when I first got involved in somewhere around when it first came out after 1999 in the year 2000, when I signed up to take my LEAD for a accredited professional exam. So many people signed up that time because they thought the exam was going to change, so they crashed the USGBC website, and I think $350,000 was transferred in the first hour of that day. And so today, presently, there's 204,000 LEAD accredited professionals. And I would say once you get the accreditation, the important thing is to be involved. Josh and I both serve on many committees, both volunteer and slightly paid committees, but mostly volunteer. But what that has allowed us to do is actually help change and create a better system. As builders, I think we look at it from a different perspective. And it's really allowed us to meet individuals from all over the world. So we have contacts everywhere that have propelled our business and has really helped us. So I'll turn that over to Josh right now so he can give you his perspective.
Yes, I think the transition from LEAD 25 years ago, when it was intended to transform the market, in many ways, it really has attained market transformation. I think back in 2004, we built one of the first LEED Gold homes in New York, and it was, I think, 12 weeks to get a dual flush, low flow toilet from Germany shipped over to be installed. And today you can go to Home Depot to do it. So I think LEAD has been incredibly successful in market transformation. And now it's really fascinating to see the crosswalks and connections to all of these other programs. Passive House and Well really resonates with us because everything is interconnected. The equity, the environmental, the economic aspects of all the different programs. And there's really fantastic optimization now between different certification programs on projects. And so I would just transfer it over to fellow presenters because I'm really excited to hear more about their perspectives.
Great, thank you guys. And I just, I put it in the chat, but we'll take, if you guys have any questions about any of these credentials, we're just gonna have everybody do a brief presentation and then we'll take some questions after that. But thank you to Josh and Kevin. Next we have Maggie.
Hi everyone, let me just give me 1 second, pull up my slides. Okay, great. So I'm Maggie. I work at the International Well Building Institute. So I'll be talking today about the Well AP Credential. So if you guys don't know about the International Well Building Institute, I actually should say we are the leader in transforming health and well-being with our people-first approach to buildings, organizations, and communities. So really what we've done is a lot of research to create our well building standard. The well building standard is the leading rating system for spaces to evaluate the impact on human health and well-being. So really focus on how the spaces we create are affecting the people who are occupying those buildings. So the well building standard is based on these 10 concepts, and the Well AP credential is tested on the well building standard. So the 10 concepts are here. They're based on air, water, nourishment, light, movement, thermal comfort, sound, materials, mind, and community. So really what makes this standard special and really our value proposition here is these 4 things. Really, we talk a lot about how it's powered by research and experts. So built on science, evidence-based research completed by over 600 academic and institutional leaders. We really make sure that things that we're putting into our standard are backed by science and really proven to, improve and affect how people, interact and their health and safety are in buildings. We monitor this continuously, so constantly updating our program to make sure we are applying best practices and staying up to date on the standards. We also do a lot of vigorous third-party review and performance testing to make sure that all of these features are getting implemented properly and are updated constantly. And then I will say we have technology and tools that really support these projects to make sure that we can scale over time. So the Well AP credential it's based on this standard. So it is the leading credential signifying advanced knowledge of health, safety, and well-being in buildings, organizations, and communities around the world. So receiving the credential, you're required to pass the exam that tests proficiency in this well building standard. Currently, we have 18,000 Well APs. We are growing. We do not have nearly as many as there are lead APs, but we are definitely growing in over 100 countries. Really, the people we tend to get part of this program who take this credential are architects, HR professionals, designers, engineers, sustainability consultants, really anyone looking to add like a health and well-being perspective to their toolkit when it comes to the built environment. I would say this is a really unique program for that. So the process of the Well AP journey, registering, creating an account, submitting your payment, preparing for the exam, we have extensive study materials and a handbook, scheduling on person or online, taking the exam, and then receiving the credential and applying your work. So currently, the Well AP exam we've kept the price at this reduced price of $299 for about a year now. So this includes online support, the handbook, resources, roadmap to the exam, and we also have special student pricing available. So just quickly, I wanted to also mention, we currently have a version 1 of the exam. We will be launching a new version of the exam starting in September. So there are 2 options currently right now for kind of what roadmap you want to take. The new exam just it's based on our version 2 of our standard, so it has a few more concepts included. That's all. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Maggie.
All right.
And then next we have Lisa White.
Are you seeing the screen?
We are. I see the.
Right.
Yeah,
Do you see Hawaii or you see slides? Okay. Okay. So hi, I'm Lisa White. I'm the Associate Director at FIAS. So I am going to be talking about the Certified Passive House Consultant designation. So I teach this training. I am a CPHC, but I don't practice in this as my career. So my colleague Chris West is on too to be part of the discussion later, who is also a trainer. And I believe his main career is just being a CPHC, so he can speak to that a little bit more. So if you don't know what FIAS is or Passive House, I don't know that I have enough time to explain what that is before the credential, but The certified consultant is generally architects, engineers, general energy consultants, someone with science backgrounds, engineering and architecture, and they are involved in the design process for passive buildings. There's other certifications for builders and raters and verifiers, which are involved through the construction phase of certified passive buildings and the on-site verification phase, so assuring quality, quality construction and quality build. So the consultant is the one that is ensuring that the performance metrics are met. So passive building is really, what it really brings to the table is setting and quantifying investments in passive measures and how far you should push with passive measures. And by passive measures, I mean kind of the top half of this circle. So looking at the enclosure in terms of solar performance, the thermal bridging or eliminating thermal bridging, so continuous insulation, air tightness, energy recovery, ventilation. You take these passive measures, apply them to a building to reduce space conditioning loads. And that's kind of the heart of passive building. You can take these principles, apply them a certain amount, and we've set performance metrics, essentially guiding you to a cost optimum point to invest in those passive measures. So we push further than codes and further than other programs, specifically around energy. And Josh was mentioning some of the programs kind of overlap and align, and FIAS is referenced in some other standards as kind of the energy piece. So we're very focused on the energy and the performance of the building, and we rely on other prerequisite programs to assure quality, like indoor air quality and things like that. So we build upon other programs, pre-existing programs, but don't have many requirements like that of our own. So the training focuses on some of these concepts with passive building. Also, the bottom half is kind of building science, and you also learn kind of basic energy modeling in the WFI passive software tool, which is what we use for certification compliance. And it's a balance-based building tool. I'd say the biggest thing about this is it allows architects that may have never kind of had their hands in the energy model before. A lot of people are learning energy modeling for the first time, and it allows them later on in their career to be a little more confident in some of their design decisions. You can very quickly use this as a design tool and kind of change around some elements of your building and see how that impacts performance real quickly, and have more confidence with your client in some of those decisions you're making. So just briefly about the training, it's 2 phases followed by an exam. So we have phase 1, it's about 50 hours online, self-paced, and you get 4 months to complete that, or you can extend it. But the main topics covered are building science, assemblies, HVAC, base load in buildings and renewable energy systems, and then the building certification process with FIAS. So it's really comes at it from all angles, everything you need to kind of understand a building's performance of the operational performance, but also the enclosure. The second phase is live instruction. Now it's online, given the past year. And it's 8 days over 2 weeks, 24 hours total. And this is where you learn the energy modeling tool, and you do some design exercises for the envelope design and mechanical design with some of your fellow students. And then the last part is the exam. You can take it at any time. Most people take it right after the course. And there's an online exam and a take-home design exam, which you get about a month to complete. I want to, I guess, say that passive building is really starting to be recognized as the baseline for zero energy building. So that's one really big incentive for understanding how to reduce loads in the building, whether or not you're doing certification or, all of that aside. Becoming a CPHC, at least what I've heard from our students, is that they can take these principles and apply them to every project. Whether or not it's going through certification doesn't really matter. It changes the framework and the mindset behind the people designing the buildings. And so if we think about actually getting to net zero, which is a many jurisdictions' goal and many people's goals in their building design, we lay that foundation of quality, health, and durability, apply passive conservation strategies to reduce loads, apply active conservation strategies, and we have set up our certification framework to kind of guide you on how far to go with each of these buckets. And then we have a certification level called core before renewable energy, and then you can add on-site then off-site renewable energy to get to zero. So we're very intentionally have our building certification program set up to guide you to what we believe is best practice for net zero building design. And then the last slide, I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about growth. So we're nowhere near where LEED is in terms of, certified professionals. We're fairly new. But in terms of certified projects, it's exponential growth. And Caitlin mentioned that most of you guys are in New York, and NYSERDA is incentivizing passive building projects, and they require that CPHCs are on those projects. You have to have the certificate to work on the passive building projects, and you get actual dollars for each unit certified. And then for other states, which if you're not in New York, it's actually kind of booming in affordable housing, because different housing finance authorities are seeing the value of reducing the energy burden on tenants and writing it into their tax credits. So projects are getting more incentive and more funding to do passive building. And again, they require kind of the person with the certificate to work on those. And that is it. Sorry if I went over my 5 minutes.
That was great. Thank you. All right. And then last up, I have Melissa Hom with Urban Green Council.
All right, thank you. Can you see my slides okay? I'm going to go into presentation mode.
Yes.
Okay, great. So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Melissa Hom. I'm the education coordinator at Urban Green. And more specifically, I work on our education outreach and delivery team. So I'm the main point of contact for our GPRO program. I think I have two of my other education colleagues on here as well, Becca and Ellen. So if you have any specific questions about curriculum, hopefully they can answer those questions for you. But I'll be talking just generally about GPRO today, and GPRO is Green Professional Building Skills Training. So GPRO is our flagship certificate program, and it teaches the people who build, renovate, and maintain buildings how to integrate these high performance practices into their everyday work. How GPRO works is it's always a live course. This ranges in length from 4 hours to about 2 days in length. After you sit for the live course, there is a certificate exam. This is a multiple choice exam. It's timed. It's now open book, open note. And then if you pass the exam, you become a GPRO certificate holder for life, and you can share this credential on your LinkedIn page, your resume. GPRO used to be very trade specific. We used to market it as being by the trades for the trades. More recently, we've really expanded it to anyone who's interested in sustainability and high performance building. We still work with a lot of union partners, but we've also expanded that to people at private construction companies, workforce development groups. We even had a big cohort of urban farmers, I believe, a few years ago. So it's really, trying to get everyone who is touching buildings, on the same page about sustainability. And so we currently have 5 courses available. Fundamentals of Building Green is our Buildings 101 course. That's the introduction to what is sustainability, what is high performance building, what are some general, good practices. The other ones are a little bit more technical, and we are actually relaunching our construction management course this fall. So if you're interested in that, please stay tuned for some updates from us. I'll have contact information on the last slide in case you want to hear about that and take that class sometime this year. And so these are some statistics. So GPRO started in 2010, so we've been around for over 10 years now. To date, we've trained over 16,000 students across North America in over 70 cities. And again, we do have that certificate exam, which has an 83% program-wide pass rate. Again, that's open book, open note. All online at the moment due to COVID. And yeah, we definitely don't want to trick you with the exam. We just want to reinforce those, principles that we teach during the course. And so why GPRO? Why should you sign up for a GPRO course? You're learning from industry professionals. Not only are the courses developed by subject matter experts and our education development team, but our instructors go through training where we ensure that they have, different experience that they can draw from and speak to during the class. We work closely with different partners to ensure that these instructors, can speak to these experiences based on their audience, For example, if someone's teaching fundamentals of building green, they might be more of a general sustainability expert, whereas if someone is teaching a plumbing class, we make sure that they have, several years of plumbing experience. So another reason to take GPRO, there are increasingly stringent standards, especially in New York, but really all across the US. And it's important to stay on top of those and be familiar with sustainable practices. GPRO is also important for driving energy savings and improving your building performance. And it's also a valued credential, again, something else to add to your resume and speak to while you're on the job. And so we do have an upcoming public course. It's happening on July 22nd. It'll be all online. We do have a special discount code. If you're interested, you can apply that for 20% off the registration fee. Yeah, feel free to scan the QR code to get to the registration page. And then, yeah, so if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. That's my contact info, and that's our website. I know we're going to take some questions now, but always happy to chat offline if you have questions about the program in general, the public course coming up. And we do also offer private classes to fit your needs and your firm's schedule. So always happy to chat about that as well.
Great, thank you, Melissa. All right, let me move over here. So we have a pretty small group today. So originally we had talked about doing some breakout rooms, but I think we're just going to keep everybody in the same room so you can hear anybody else's questions. But I do see a couple in the chat. Feel free to either submit there or like virtually raise your hand and I can call on you. But I see here from Michelle, with GPRO, are there 5 courses? Does one get certified in each one or all of them?
There's no Michelle. Oh, never mind.
Melissa, did you hear that one?
Oh, sorry. I think I lost Wi-Fi for a second. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, with GPRO, are there 5 courses or does one get certified in each one or all of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'd say it really depends on your interests and what you're looking for. I would say, most people just choose 1 or 2 because they are pretty trade specific. So, it's really up to you. But then we do have a lot of folks take, the MEP course, as we call it, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. But, like I said, it really depends on your interests. You're definitely welcome to take all the courses if you'd like to get certified in all 5 of them.
Thank you. And Ellen, you had a question?
I do. I have a question for Lisa, or really for any of you. Becca who's on the call. Becca and I were talking to someone working in workforce development yesterday, one of our advisors for the new GPRO CM course. And she works with MWBEs in the Pacific Northwest, small contractors who are not interested in green building stuff because it's not profitable. It's not in demand. They're not asking for them. There's no extra money for it. And I'm wondering, like, when I see your curve that's going up exponentially, is that due to, what's the driver for that? If it's funding or codes, or what's up with that? And is there money, like affordable housing? She said it makes housing not affordable. And I'm wondering how you are able to get people past that barrier.
Yeah, I think a lot of the growth is honestly incentive programs. So whether it's cash incentives like NYSERDA's giving per unit, or the low income housing tax credits, essentially if in your design you say you're going to achieve passive building certification, you get more points. So then you're more likely to be awarded the tax credits, which helps finance the project. And those little things have helped kind of push forward how it needed to get into the market. And then once people do it, they get more experienced, and people are building these things for 1 or 2% more than code. So then it makes absolutely so much sense because of the operational savings you get over time. So we kind of need that little spark. And I think that little spark is what's driven most of the growth outside of, just go-getters, which you can't find those. That's the 0.01%. It's mostly incentives.
Can I ask a follow-up specifically about the credential? Are you seeing people with the credential in demand, like are seeing job descriptions for that, and or contractors specifically, like who's looking for that specific credential?
That I don't know. I mean, I know that some of the places that are offering the incentives will require that you have someone certified on the project team, just because, you know, it's their money going toward it and they want to make sure they have success. I don't know if it's necessarily, if I've seen it on like job descriptions and things, but I haven't been looking. Chris, maybe you can speak to that if you've seen it anywhere.
Yeah. So I've been a passive house consultant since 2011, and I've been a trainer since 2018. And my the main discussions about passive house as a standard is about the building science, is about we are making the IECC and the other codes are making buildings tighter and tighter, and the builders and the architects don't understand how changing the air tightness of a building traps moisture. So we're creating houses that have huge building science failures. So what I'm finding is that half of the projects that I get called in on are not looking for certification. They're looking for building science help. And that is something that the passive house standard has in spades. It's all building science focused. So that's the value added in my point of view. And half of the work that I get as a consultant is from builders and architects who either have built something that's failing or know that they've dealt with failures in the past and want to know how to do it right. And that's I get people asking about passive house a lot, and not a lot of them want certification. They want the benefits of the savings. They want the benefits of the building science and the surety of understanding how the physics of a building work to create a durable, healthy, and comfortable indoor air and indoor climate.
Yes, this is Josh. I can attest to that as well in our practice, both as a builder, construction manager, and then a consultant. We actually bring the WELL framework and FIAS framework within a adaptive resilience framework, and it's everything from an audit when we see buildings that have failed. And the FIAS framework is really fantastic because the passive building science from the NREL standard in 2015-16, tied to all of the other third-party funded research, is really a fantastic framework to apply either in new construction or diagnostically in a forensic capacity to understand why and what failed and how to fix it. So we see a lot of that. And so that actually led me to get my certified passive house builder credential last summer, which was incredibly useful in a lot of ways. Most of it was information we had already dealt with in a lot of different ways, but it was a really nice coherent framework to present to a project team to think about how to tackle envelope consulting, for example, or air tightness, and then to connect to WELL in terms of the best practice health research out there, the Harvard Healthy Buildings Program, for example, the forhealth.org, and some of the other programs. The WELL Health Safety Rating is another great resource. The WELL Homes Advisory, I'm a co-chair for that now, and I don't even have the WELL credential yet, and I'm going through it, but we're going to develop the first WELL Home standard, and really, really excited about that. And so for anyone on the call, I would encourage you to participate in those processes, either apply to the advisory or provide feedback, because when you have the potential to really interact with these certification programs and frameworks, not only do you learn for your own practice, but you have a real meaningful ability to influence and share and contribute and build to them. So, so really all of these different programs work together, because then it comes through GPRO and the IPPC Pilot Credit 81 and LEED now for trades training, and all of this really fantastic building science and other information starts to form the content of all these other programs, and you get to a really holistic perspective on how to apply it for each project.
Cool, thank you, Josh. Melissa, I see a question here for you. Is GPRO specific to New York City or New York State, or can it be applied to other states as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know my internet's being a little weird, so if you can't hear me or I break up, let me know. But yeah, so GPRO is not specific to New York City or New York State. We work with, a bunch of partners all across North America. And, some of our partners, when they get the material, they do like to customize it a little bit to fit their region. So we work with them to do that. But if you're in New York City, we did actually recently add a case study to the fundamentals and I believe O&M curriculum about Local Law 97. So that's super relevant if you're working here. We also have everyone, just learn about that because it is an interesting local law to discuss. And yeah, I know that Becca and Ellen are here. So if you have anything to add, please feel free to jump in.
Cool. Does anybody else have any questions? You can feel free to unmute yourself if that's easier, or if you want to type it in the chat.
Yes, I do. In regards, I had another question above the one that I said for the well certification. I wanted to really know how was that a positive tool working with the profession?
Oh, yes, I see that. Hi, Michelle. So I would say the biggest things with the WELL certification and becoming a WELL AP is a distinction of prioritizing health and well-being for your employees. So really focusing on the occupants of the building and how, we can create, optimized designs to create a better indoor experience for them. I think with the WELL certification program, you're able to align your real estate, your operations, your human resources, and the C-suite team under one kind of shared vision of health and well-being. So I think it will, as an organization, as a business, you'll stand out because you're actually, prioritizing that health and well-being. And Josh mentioned, like with the homes thing, we want to eventually be able to have this rating in homes as well. So if you were evaluating, you were purchasing a home, you'd be able to, look for that WELL certification. So, it's an easy indicator. So, before purchasing a home or renting an apartment that, rigorous testing standards have been evaluated for, your human health and safety before occupying a building.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so I can add to that too, just in a couple ways, I guess. It's really interesting when you look at the passive building framework, for example, and the healthy building framework and the science behind each, and then try to take that science and translate it into what is a healthy ventilation standard and how can you utilize energy efficiency as a tool for broader multi-dimensional benefits like health and resilience. But for your question, when the pandemic first emerged towards the end of, last January, February, as QA infield consultants that do a lot of performance testing, a lot of envelope consulting, and a lot of construction. I mean, the first thing we want to do is not hurt the people we build houses for, or the multifamily LMI projects that we are the energy and sustainability and healthy buildings consultant for. So we had to understand the SARS-CoV virus in really intense detail. And WELL was one of the first organizations, International Well Building Institute, to look at the healthy building science and ask, is it airborne? And what does it mean if it's airborne versus, fomite or droplet transmission? And a lot of the scientists behind that WELL standard, which led to the WELL health safety rating, recognized very early in the pandemic measures that I think only now CDC and WHO are admitting and recognizing the science of, because there's been this evolved research over 100 years that just said, no, it's only 6 feet and it falls to the ground. And all of these healthy building scientists actually said, absolutely not. When you look at it, it's airborne. Every super spreader event was in a poorly ventilated indoor space. It's aerosolized. And how do we deal with that through ventilation and other measures? And so for the question of how does WELL certification positively impact business, it led to all of our clients asking us to develop healthy building reports that analyzed existing ventilation systems, and that ties intimately back to the thermal envelope and the air tightness levels, and really building a system and what interventions make sense cost effectively or optimized to really create a healthy indoor environment. And so WELL really provided a framework for that, and now it has a certification program, the health safety rating. It's building on that. Passive House FIAS does the same thing, and a really fantastic approach to how it looks at ventilation, for example, relative to the ASHRAE, the industry standards that need to be considered and codes that need to be met. But both of those programs had a really significant impact in our business, particularly over the last year, because we could provide science-based answers to clients about how they could intervene in buildings immediately to address what was a really great amount of uncertainty and unknown, and a precautionary principle to protect the health and wellness of the occupants over the past year.
Thank you for that detailed explanation. That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Michelle. Anybody else have any questions? I think, Ellen, I see you had a point here about a lead point for projects with GPRO certificate holders.
Yes, there's a pilot credit 81, that will give you 1 point for lead new construction. Actually, I think it's for most of the building ones, not like the community development ones, and the existing building ones for having a certain number or percentage of GPRO certificate holders on staff or on the construction team. So we can send you more information about that if you want, but it's a good way, especially for construction, to get like the construction team trained on the green, practices for that project.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Well, while we're waiting for questions, I'd just like to jump in and say, one of the things that the people who are certified in any of these certifications, I can't speak to the wellness or the GPRO or the lead, because I'm none of those certifications. I've worked with people who do those, is that we are the adults in the room when it comes to building science. When we're in a meeting and someone starts talking about a particular thing, if you're Passive House certified, as a Passive House certified builder or a Passive House certified consultant, you're the person who can point to actual data and to actual science and say, okay, if your air sealing is a goal, then you need to get your team on board early on, right? We are the nodes that are spreading the meme of building science as an important thing. And hopefully in another 10 or 15 years, none of these organizations will need to exist, because everyone will be trained on the building science and the indoor quality and all of that stuff. This is all catch up, right? As we're doing this as a society and as an industry. I'd like nothing more than to walk onto every building site here in Vermont where I live and have every junior carpenter walk up to me and say, well, don't do that, because that's not what building science says for our climate. Wouldn't that be awesome? So we are the viral vectors for building science. All of the people who take these types of certifications are, and we help change the way building is being done here in our country.
Thank you. I do have another question here from Nandan for Melissa. Are there any requirement to maintain GPRO as a certification similar to health, safety, wellness credits on a yearly basis for AIA?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there aren't any requirements. Once you become a GPRO certificate holder, you have that certificate for life. Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. Anyone else? Melissa, there's a request for you to slide share with the barcode again for GPRO registration. Yeah, and we can send that around to everyone afterwards as well. If there's no other questions, then we can probably wrap up a little early. There's that code for you. we can leave that up when we're chatting. But if there's no other questions, then I think we're set. I just want to say thank you to our presenters for joining today and answering some quick questions. And I know we've done this program before, and it's been really helpful just for our emerging professionals program to kind of hear a little bit more about each one of these, and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks all. Great, and have a great rest of your day.
Same here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.